Okay, we are. Right, so the title of my talk tonight is Grow Your Own, Future-Proofing Our Workforce. And so I really want to be a bit of a link between the employers that we've spoken to and also the recruitment side of things, because we are very proudly vocational at Techtorium. What we do is we try to get our students, and we do a really good job of it actually. I think Employment Pathways will tell us it's in the high 90s into employment. We work really hard, like many other tertiary providers do, getting our graduate students ready for employment. You know, it's no point training them this really cool stuff and then they don't get employed. So, the questions that I just wanted to cover tonight are, what shifts are happening in education? Because we can hear what employers are saying, and some of what Lisa was saying totally resonated with me, and I can see our Employment Pathways teams nodding as well. These are some of the issues that we're facing and that our graduates are facing, and we want to help make that connection with employers so that you can be part of the solution. So the first question is, what are the shifts in education? Because they're huge. And we have to be careful that we don't let the fear of changing technology kind of freak us out a little bit about where we're going with it. How do educators prepare today's students for tomorrow's workforce? We've talked about changes in technology. It would be very easy to say, oh, our students come in on that level 5 engineering course and we teach them this, and by the time they get to level 7 cloud management, that technology is no longer relevant. Well, we've got a workaround on that one, so I'll talk to you about that. And the institutional changes that have had to take place to make that happen. And what role should employers play in shaping their future employees? Because obviously you play a big part of it, and it's nice to hear that Lisa is on a advisory board for another tertiary provider. It's very important that those relationships we have with you as employers are strong. And I will be hunting down Ben and Mike later as well to, I had some great ideas while you were talking, and I thought, hey, I know what we can get you to do. So, did I say this is, we're an innovative learning environment, so we like full participation, so we'll bring you into that. So what do we know in this room? We know that tech skills are not enough to carry us forward. We need education to be more contextualised. And what we mean by that is that there is no point in us teaching the theory of how to, fix a hard drive. We actually have to get our students fixing a hard drive. We have to get our students writing that code, looking for solutions. And it's not just the technical things, it's the things around, looking after your customers. So every country right now is buzzing about the emergence of new technologies. Now, buzzing is good if you're a technologist. It's terrifying if you're sitting on the edges of that. And so if you think about our secondary schools and what they go through, when you might have, no disrespect to our secondary schools, but you might have a principal who's come up through as a geography teacher, and suddenly he's landed with this problem of how does he get technology, or how does she get technology into the schools. So, it's hard to predict where we'll be in 5 or 10 years' time, and I think that's one thing that we can all agree on. If you were born before 1980, how did you arrange to meet your friends? Because I was born quite a long time before 1980, and I used to do things like ring them up before we left home and said, hey, I'll meet you at this time, and if you're not there, this is my plan B. Does anybody relate to that? Yeah. What do they do now? Where are you going? Don't know, I'll let you know when I get there. They walk out the door with their mobile phone and they plan on the go and how they're going to do it. And their plan B is, well, it doesn't matter. Before 1980, your parents, you could lie to them and they had no idea where you were, whether you were going to where you said you were going or whether you were going to that party that was much more interesting than that movie. But now, parents GPS their kids. So they know where they are and they know what they're doing. And actually, we have this sense of safety now that we have to do that with our kids. And so we don't give a second thought to the technological connections that we use now. Because even though I was born before 1980, I could not imagine my life without my phone, without my iPad, which is a toy for me, by the way, without my, my devices, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, a phone has become a safety device. So there was a study done, or the Worldwide Educating for the Future Index, the 2017 report, talked about future skills that we need. And so the previous speakers talking about soft skills, and not just the tech skills, but entrepreneurial skills, leadership skills, critical thinking, creative skills, analytical skills, interdisciplinary skills, and global awareness. You can't be inward facing. And how do we educate this? How do we do this in a classroom? So if you look around you, our classrooms don't have walls. This is actually 3 teaching spaces. And some of our trainers here, put your hands up, some of our trainers here, they teach in these spaces. There's a pod over there that the students work in, next to a class who might be, you might have a software class next to a first year engineering class, next to a third year engineering class, or in fact a secondary school group. So we put them all in together because people learn from each other. And what we do, we have a little rule that says if a trainer talks for as long as I'm going to talk to you right now, somebody goes time. Why? Because we need the students to do the work. We don't need the trainers to do the work. We don't need students who are passive learners. We have students in here. We make you work hard, huh? We make them do things. We make them work together. We make them solve problems together. We work where we can with industry as much as we can to get some of these skills going, and we have an amazing time doing it. And this is what educational institutions are doing now. There's a lot of secondary schools going into this space. The tertiary providers are getting into this space as well. We went to 2 conferences in Australia last year on innovative learning, and it was mind-blowing. Melbourne University, I don't know if any of you have been and had a look around their campus. It's incredible what they do. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that as we go on. So what do we know on a global scale? Well, the report that came out the following year said that these 5 things are key. Wealth's not important when it comes to future skills. Reviews are essential and constant and ongoing, which is what terrifies a lot of non-tech people. Teachers need to engage in continuous learning, which is also very difficult when they're continuously teaching. Diversity and tolerance should be instilled as universal values, and I completely agree with what Lisa was saying. This is really important. If we look around at our student cohort in any tertiary setting and most secondary settings in Auckland, we're a very diverse group of people, and we all have something pretty special to bring to the table. It also helps us be a more globally aware environment. And rigid approaches do not suit future skills learning. So back to those of you who were born before 1980. Show of hands? Not many of you. Okay. So did you ever have a teacher who stood and talked at you for an hour and you were terrified to move? Yeah. What is it like for a teenager to have to sit still without moving for 45 minutes or an hour? It's dreadful, because when they move, their brains work better. They get oxygen in. When they talk to each other, they bounce ideas off each other. They didn't encourage that back then. Now we say it's got to be, a lot of it has got to be about that. So I just wanted to, the same report has ranked countries for various criteria about how we are future-proofing ourselves with technology skills. And so in 2017, overall New Zealand ranked number 1. In 2018, we ranked number 3. It's pretty good. For those of you with kids in schools right now and you're getting all upset because the teachers are going on strike, we ranked number 19 in terms of teachers' pay. So, support the teachers. It's pretty grim out there for them. So, where do we sit? Where do we sit with what our environments are? So we're still number 1 in both years in our teaching environments. So they're saying that how we're delivering our curriculum. So I think we're doing quite well in terms of an educational setting. And the things that everybody agrees on is learning is lifelong. It's forever. And it's not just because we're not using C++ anymore. It's about learning concepts and understanding how we learn and why we learn and how we use that information. So education systems can help students into the future with initiative, self-reliance and adaptability. These are the things that we have to teach. So what's changed? It's less about learning and retaining information. It's much more about how to analyse and use information. So it's okay that you don't know C++ or that you learned it and it's no longer being used out there. What you will know is how people who develop software think and how they collate data and how they manage information. And it's about taking that information and doing something with it. Okay, so it's no longer about collecting the information like in the old days where, you know, the accountant would come up and come with a whole lot of collected information about your organisation to say, oh, you know, you spent a little bit too much on chocolate biscuits this month, you have to knock that back and knock that on the head. It's not about that anymore. It's actually about using that information to propel yourself forward and to be able to keep pace with what's going on out there. So education was about creating skills that supported a world that stayed the same by and large. Now it's about creating skills to cope with the change. Okay, so the educators, we're on board with that. We totally get it. We want to give employers what they're looking for. So we created here, Patrick had this great idea in 2014, I think. I know, let's be a modern learning environment. That's what they called it in the old days, but it's not modern anymore, it's innovative, but you've got to keep up with the times. So he decided that this would be a good idea. So we did a little bit of research on it. That means we got a bus and we went out to Albany Senior High School and we looked at how they did it. And we said, hey, this is a great idea, let's knock down some walls. You know, we'll get different furniture, we'll make it really groovy for the students and you know, we'll put these cool whiteboard, you know, glass around the walls and we can write on them. We gave the students whiteboard tables, but it was more than just the furniture that had to change. The students had to come on board with it and the delivery staff had to as well, because if they're not on board with it, they will move the furniture back into the old formation. And this is what's happened in a lot of tertiary settings. They've got this really cool furniture. They spent, there was a Polytech in New Zealand that spent so much money on their environment, and when they went into these amazing learning spaces, the students had lined the desks up in order and sat behind them, and they insisted that the lecturer stood at the front of the class and talked to them while they wrote notes. So you need to get buy-in from people to get on board with this. But we're there now and we're getting it, and lots of tertiary providers are doing this. And so these are the things that we think we encourage when we create the innovative learning environment. Have you sat in that pod over there? It's really cool. We also have bench seating and the students work collaboratively. It's not just about the environment though, it's about the delivery. So we deliver the information, students choose how to apply it. So when you hear people saying, oh, this modern learning, you know, the students decide what they want to learn and then they go off and learn it, you go, you're joking. All I want to learn about is, I don't know, One Direction or something like that. I'm quite old, I don't know what's out there now. So, you know, you think about that in education, you think this is where it's going to go, but actually it's not. What we do is we say, these are the things, these are the problems you're going to face. Now go out and find out how you'll actually fix those problems. And that's what the students do. And they work together, they work collaboratively. At break time now, instead of, you know, when we had classrooms, the students would race out and it was all noisy and the rest of it, it's quiet. The students don't leave where they are because they're solving a problem, a world problem. So I'm going to have to go much faster than this because I've only got 58 seconds left. I've always got so much to say, I'm a teacher of old school. So what should employers play? What role should employers play in shaping their future employees? Work with schools. Okay, so we have about 240 full-time students here, and I can tell you that pretty much all of them, bar a few, came to us through secondary schools. We have 8 short courses in schools that we get kids really excited about technology. We have 3-day courses in AI and developing games and what are some of the other ones? Cyber security. You know, the teachers want to come and do it. We have to get these kids excited about technology. And so I asked the employers in the room as well. There is a program in schools called Gateway. This is funding in the schools for students to come and do courses like this and go and get work experience. You need to let them in. You need to let them look at what you do. So I've run out of time, but can I talk to you about DATACOM?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go past this. The DATACOM project. So we work really closely, not only with schools, but we work really closely with employers as well. And we have great relationships because, you know, we're a little player and we punch pretty high above our weight with some of the big IT companies. And so what DATACOM do is, first of all, they agreed to take a group of secondary school students on a famil tour where they went in, they sat down, they listened in on help desk calls, they got to talk to the staff about what it's like dealing with IT problems across the phone and that sort of thing, which was amazing of them to do it. And the students that came on that actually came on full-time study with us, number one. Number two, DATACOM recruits some of our students as part-time employees while they're studying with us. There's real work activities that are going on. They're learning about what's happening, they're learning about how to be a good employee, and it's really valuable because most of them actually get full-time jobs out of it. So employers, be creative. Ben, where are you, Ben? Ben, your conversation with your clients about what they could and couldn't have, you know, imagine in hospitals, teaching hospitals, they have trainee doctors just sitting in there writing notes. If we could have a couple of our students in on meetings like that, it would be gold. You know, it would be gold. One experience like that would be massive. So DATACOM, anyway, coming back to DATACOM, they employ these kids and they do quite well. So what do employers want? They want people with experience of internships. I'm just going to quickly finish the thing on experience. I looked up on Seek network engineering roles. Now I know there's a decrease in these roles. There were 600 and something in New Zealand. When I went through them, every single one of them expected 4 years experience. It is unrealistic and it's difficult when we have these amazing graduates coming out from the universities, from places like Techtorium, and they're hitting that barrier of you've got no experience, I'm walking away from it. If you want these people to have experience, please offer internships, work experience. Even letting them follow you around for a day has huge value because we can see that that's what employers are wanting. So I'm probably just going to finish on there. I hope you got something out of that. But we are working with employers, we really are. So thank you very much for your time.